excuse me, hold on one, excuse me. Let me bring people in on this. I'm in an argument right now, and I got to tell you, it's a little bit aggravating for me. I just got asked a question. Can Lasiri shock the world and beat Rodtang? Excuse me. Shock the world? Lasiri's a champion right now. Not he was champion. Not this guy's doing great. Not he's got a 42-12 record. He's a sitting champion right now. Here's the deal. And you guys got to understand this, because Rodtang is the face of Muay Thai, okay? But think about what that means from a perspective that you would understand, because you're just getting familiarized with Muay Thai. And you have one championship and Amazon Prime specifically to thank for that. Can we agree? Think of it from this perspective, something that you'll be able to relate to. Who's the biggest star in MMA? Now, that is not a trick question. That is not an opinion. The answer is Conor McGregor. Red Panty Night is a very real thing. What did Conor do to become a star? Now, you could talk about the press conference, you could talk about the fun. You're going to have to mention along the way that he left his sport and went over to boxing. You're going to have to mention that. It's a very important piece of the Conor story. He lost. But did he? Because if we're talking about stardom, Conor did not lose. Not if we're talking about stardom. If you're talking about whose stock raised more that night between Conor and Floyd. So take a look at what Conor did. He goes into a different sport. It's got an element. He kind of understands it. He's in the gym throwing punches. This is a sport with punches. Like, he's not totally a fish out of water, but this is what he goes into. He goes out there. He has a valiant performance against the world champion in Floyd Mayweather. I know Floyd wasn't sitting. Please don't think you have to correct me on my boxing history. I'm just sharing with you how important that was and what an uphill battle that was. Now, the reason I bring Conor into this is look at Rodtang. So Rodtang is the Muay Thai guy. This is what he does, guys. He's got almost 300 matches. Now, Rodtang comes over to MMA, but what does he do? He goes into a main event against the champion in Demetrius Johnson. He puts out a valiant effort. And I only want you to make that comparison so that you understand what else does Conor do. Conor parlays this. I saw Conor doing a commercial. He was with a friend of mine, I'm name dropping. He was with a friend of mine named John Lovitz doing a commercial during the Super Bowl. Now Conor's off doing Roadhouse. He's making some appearances like this. You understand? But that's what Rodtang is doing. Rodtang is doing movies. He's getting exposed to the North American audience. And I bring that to you because perception is reality. And don't think that I don't understand it. And it's more clear in the sport. Excuse me. It's more clear in this sport than it is anything else. Rodtang is the star. Rodtang is the face. I do not challenge his skills. He's awesome. I'm pushing back, acting as though Lasiri, it's going to shock the world. It won't shock me. If Lasiri goes out and win, wow, that's a good win. And he's going to add a beautiful victory to his already resume, which involves current champion. I mean, I really have to say that because perception is reality, guys, isn't it? If I was to ask you, in any weight class, no matter what an aficionado you are, who are the top 10 best boxers? And I could back it up. I could do it to eras. Who are the top 10 best boxers of the 70s? Who's the greatest boxer of all time? Who's the top 10 greatest boxer of all time? All you're going to tell me is the most popular. That's all you're going to do. You're going to go, I've heard Muhammad Ali's name more often than I've heard George Foreman's, and I know Sonny Liston was in there, and boy, Iron Mike Tyson. I mean, that's how you're going to do it. It's a popularity contest. That's all right. I'm just bringing this to your attention that I get that Rodtang is the star. I get that he's the face. I also get that it's his weight class. I also get that he's the favorite. I understand the whole thing. Acting as though Lasiri is going to shock the world. Why? With what evidence do you have? When's the last time we saw somebody do this? And I'm going off the top of my head here. But I'm thinking back to Israel Adesanya moving up to Blachowicz. MMA terms for you. I get that it didn't go well. I get it. I remember this fight. I remember the 3-2. I remember the takedown. I know the whole thing, but 3-2 is pretty close. That means Adesanya wins one round. He takes one from Jan. He gets one more for himself. He leaves there with the championship. Like, that's a competitive match. There was nothing there that would have shocked the world, but the story's the same. Because I'm here, I'm getting asked this question by Ryan because Lasiri is moving up in weight. I'm just here to remind you historically, show me when that's been a problem, because I can show you the other way. I can tell you about the time that George St. Pierre went from 170 to 185, was undefeated, left Madison Square Garden with Michael Bisping's belt. I can play that game all day long. I can tell you about the time that Randy Couture went from 205 up to heavyweight, won the world championship. I can tell you about the time that Daniel Cormier was counted out because he was a light heavyweight and Stipe was too big and Daniel stopped him in 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Like, I can play this game all day. It doesn't change in kickboxing. And people like to think that it does. They like to think that boxing and Muay Thai and kickboxing are different than MMA for some of those things that you have to turn to, some of the things you have to look to, and size matters. Believe me, I'm well aware of that. As a matter of fact, size matters is an exact quote. It was like a Volvo versus a Mack truck. That's an exact quote. Do you recognize it? Roy Jones Jr.'s father said that when Roy Jones went up to heavyweight to fight Ruiz. Father said, I don't want this match. The manager went and did this. My son went and did this. I wasn't consulted on it. My son's a better fighter than him. I'm not arguing that. It's a Volvo versus a Mack truck. I'm quoting for you. This is 20 years ago. And then Roy went out and proceeded to whip his ass. It wasn't competitive. Power thrills and speed kills. I mean, these things are real, though, but they transfer to all sports. I'll tell you as a wrestler, you want to just bring in a different denomination? I will tell you as a wrestler, the hardest guy to take on is the guy from one weight class below you. This got tested one year. They had something. You've seen the absolute tournament. Jiu-Jitsu made absolutes. Abu Dhabi makes absolute a very big deal. They did this at a wrestling tournament. And they took guys, 2 weight class. Okay, you guys go wrestle at the end, both the champions. Okay, you next 2 weight class, you guys go in. Every single weight but one was won by the lighter guy. Lasiri's got his hands full here, okay? This is Rodtang. This is Rodtang. I'm just sharing with you. You want to go back to the path and the past of Conor McGregor? I mean, do you want to do that? Why do you think Conor quit being as dominant and winning fights? I mean, don't forget, Conor won a world championship in 12 seconds, so there was nobody close. To get to that world championship, Conor stomped absolutely everybody out. Nobody even made it the distance except a young man named Max Holloway. Stomped them all out, and all of a sudden things are getting closer. And not only are things getting closer, it's going the other way. But why do you think that is? Is it just age? Is it just videotape and guys start to study him? I'll admit you got a pie, and those are probably slices at it, but can we also agree that it was distraction? Can we also agree that going off and doing the commercials and doing the media tours and being pulled in every which direction? Rodtang is off and he's making movies. I'm just bringing it. Does it affect his skills? I think we can agree that historically speaking, it doesn't help. I'm getting asked a question. Would Lasiri shock the world? I must tell you, that irritates me. Why would that irritate me? I mean, really, if we're to be real fair, that's a little bit of a weird reaction by me, but Lasiri's not just some guy. This is the right now, guys, not former, not I'm going back 5 or 6 years, right now. Right now, he's the world champion. Oh, and by the way, he's down a weight class, which, oh, by the way, and you can even bring Abu Dhabi, and I gave you that wrestling example, bring Abu Dhabi in. Tell me the last time the super heavyweight won the absolute. Did it happen this year? Ask Yuri Simone. What weight class did he enter? I mean, it's a really relevant thing. And quite frankly, I'm not even willing to concede that Rodtang's better. Are you ready for that? I'm not willing to concede it. He's more powerful. He has more experience. He's the favorite. I understand that. He has 300 fights versus a little bit less than 60. But at what point is that helpful? I mean, at what point is that tipping edge? Not to mention you're talking about pressure. It's on Rodtang. He's the face. He's recognizable. Lasiri's going to shock the world. I mean, it's all these different things. Like, that stuff adds up against you. Now, at the end of the day, before we go back and forth, we talk about mentalities, and Chael starts telling you the history of the sport. Before you do any of that, one guy's a better fighter than the other one, and they got a week to figure this out. There's an expression that Randy Couture would use, the hay is in the barn. Okay, there's nothing they can do from now to then that is going to change the outcome of this fight. One of those guys is a better fighter, but I am not without merit to tell you that I think Lasiri is faster. I'm not without merit to tell you that if you go look at which fighter has done better historically, you got 300 fights versus 60 fights. You go look at the record and you go see which fighter has done better average-wise when it goes to a decision. So you got to do some real damage just by the numbers. You put this into a computer, you spit out the formula. Rodtang has got to do some damage. Can we agree? Rodtang would like to knock him out. But like Mike Tyson said, if you go for the knockout, you're not going to win the decision. I mean, I'm telling you, there's strategies here. Rodtang's a bigger guy. He's got to cut him off. And there's something about a cage. I will share with you. I'm a stand-up guy. I really like it. I really like boxing. I really like kickboxing. I understand Muay Thai, and that's what I personally train in because you had the elbows and the knees. I like the ring better than the cage. I really do. I like the way that they move. I like the way when they cut each other off. I have seen guys, and this your eyes won't tell you this. If you get in there and try it, though, you know exactly what I mean. If you're in a ring and your back is up against the ropes and the guy proceeds to throw punches at your body, you're in trouble. But see, this is a big mistake that guys don't do. When you have him against the ropes, you don't hit his head. You hit his body. The body doesn't move. The head not only can move, it can move all the way back because the ropes hold him up. Guys can start doing the bend. They can pull themselves, and if you were looking from a camera angle that was lateral to it, they will pull themselves out of the ring with the ropes. They can't do that in the cage. It's very different. You know, you want to talk about cut a guy off and go to work? Cut a guy off, why? I mean, if I don't get to use it, what's the point of doing it? And a cage really does change things. You want to talk about 300 versus 60. I see those numbers. You tell me who has more experience doing it within a cage, because that matters. Now, I'm splitting hairs here. I'm talking about who ate more protein and less grams and who got more sleep at night. I understand I'm splitting hairs, but you're talking about a game of inches. This is for the world championship. It's a big deal. It's a big fight. But if you think that you've got this one all figured out because one guy is the face of the sport, the other guy is the world champion. All I'm telling you, I'll give you my prediction later, not in this piece, but all I'm telling you is there is nothing about that outcome that what I find shocking.